We have this idea of freedom, right? It's all about breaking the rules, escaping the grind. But what if that's actually a trap? Today, we're diving into a really powerful and kind of counterintuitive idea from Nimrod Israeli, that real, meaningful freedom doesn't come from getting away from structure, but by growing inside of it.
And right out of the gate, the author throws down a challenge. This dedication is aimed squarely at a belief that, let's be honest, a lot of us really value. The idea that true freedom means being completely self-reliant. But as we're about to find out, that very idea might be what's holding us back.
So, here's our roadmap for today. We're going to start with a journey that uncovers a strange paradox. Then we'll explore two very different kinds of freedom. And after that, we'll get into something called the 4 social forces that shape our communities. And finally, we'll pull it all together to see why structure isn't a cage. It's actually more like a launch pad.
Okay, so our story kicks off on the road. The author's taking a drive through northern Israel, and what he's seeing out the window sparks this huge question. Why is it that some communities thrive for generations, while others just seem to get stuck?
So he saw these ancient villages, right? They'd been around for thousands of years, but their basic way of life was almost frozen in time. They were surviving, sure, but not really moving forward. Then he passes through the old city of Tiberias, which had kind of stagnated. It was acting more like a big, disorganized village. But then, boom, something totally new pops up on the horizon, the kibbutz Degania. It was only founded in 1910, but this super-structured, cooperative community was just bursting with life and prosperity. The difference was, well, it was jarring.
And this all led him to this really puzzling paradox. The places that had the most individual autonomy, where everyone was pretty much for themselves, were the exact same places making the least collective progress. It just didn't add up. How could more freedom actually lead to less success? To figure this out, we have to take a closer look at the word freedom itself. And the key, it turns out, is realizing that we're talking about two totally different things, the kind of freedom we feel and the kind of freedom we can actually use.
So first, there's what the author calls intuitive freedom. This is the one we all get. It's that gut feeling, that desire to be your own boss, to not have to answer to anyone. Think of it as the freedom you feel when you're completely on your own.
But then there's functional freedom. Now, this isn't about a feeling, it's about capability. It's not what you can do by yourself, it's about the range of things you can do within a system. And here's the wild part. This type of freedom actually gets bigger and more powerful as the structure around you gets stronger and more organized.
And this chart just says it all. Look, on the left, you've got that intuitive freedom. Feels great, but your ability to do big things is pretty limited. But on the right, well, people give up a little of that lone wolf autonomy to work together in a complex structure, and suddenly their collective power, their functional freedom to achieve incredible things, is just magnified like crazy.
So, if these complex structures are the secret, what's the glue holding them together? Well, the author comes up with this amazing answer by looking at the universe itself, using the fundamental forces of physics as an analogy for how we build communities. He calls them the 4 social binding forces. First, you need a mission, that's what keeps you together day to day. Then a vision orients everyone toward a shared goal down the road. Values are like the rule book for how everyone behaves along the way. And finally, a deep sense of purpose is the ultimate why that holds the whole thing together for the long haul.
And this is where the analogy gets really cool. The mission is like the strong nuclear force, incredibly powerful but only works up close, holding the immediate team together. The vision, that's like electromagnetism, creating bonds over a medium distance. Values are like the weak force, regulating all those internal interactions. And purpose? Well, purpose is gravity. It might seem weak day to day, but over time, it's the force that shapes everything.
Okay, so now we can take this new framework and go back to that drive through the countryside. Using these 4 forces, we can finally figure out why some of those communities were thriving while others were just stuck.
This table just lays it all out. Look at the village and the city. See how the forces are kind of weak or fragmented or short range? A company does a bit better, but its purpose is often just about the market. But then, look at the kibbutz. All 4 forces are strong. They're aligned and they're long range, from their daily work right up to their multi-generational purpose. That is the blueprint for a structure that prospers.
And this quote just hits the nail on the head. In the kibbutz, freedom was powered by mutual responsibility. You were free to experiment, to innovate, even to fail, because you knew the community was your safety net. This was a powerful freedom inside the system, not some fragile freedom from it.
So this brings us right to our big conclusion, where we can finally solve that puzzle from the beginning and really understand what true freedom, the freedom to actually achieve something, looks like.
The big aha moment for the author was realizing that his own gut feeling about freedom, it wasn't wrong, it was just incomplete. That feeling of being free when you're totally alone is a real thing, but it's a freedom that really only works in simple situations. It gives you a small island with just a few simple choices.
And get this, it's not just about communities. Let's talk about Henry Ford's assembly line. I mean, you can't get much more rigid and structured than that, right? But by sacrificing that individual autonomy on the factory floor, the whole system's capability just exploded. And that allowed Ford to double wages and shorten the workday, which expanded the real-world functional freedom of his workers to live better lives.
Which brings us to the final, really powerful takeaway. Structure isn't the enemy of freedom, it's the trellis that allows freedom to grow. Think about it. A vine on the ground has the freedom to go anywhere, but it's never going to reach the sun. It's the structure of the trellis that gives it the functional freedom to climb higher than it ever could on its own.
So, the question I want to leave you with is this. Instead of always asking how we can break free, what if we started asking how we can build better? Take a look at your own life, your job, your family, your community. What structures are holding you back, and which ones are lifting you up, expanding what you're truly capable of achieving?